Hi. Last night I had the honor of being on a speaking panel. I was invited by the Progressive Caucus Democratic Party in California, which was also hosted by the Arab American Caucus. They were having their executive board meeting at the Democratic Party conference, which was being held here at the Hyatt in Monterey, California. The topic of the event was Solidarity is the Future of the Party. And I was able to speak on some really important topics, especially from the perspective of Veterans for Peace on Palestine. And I was really happy that the message was well received by the audience. I mean, they are progressives, and I think that, being progressives, I was a little bit nervous because we're pretty direct and outspoken at times. So I wasn't sure how the audience was going to react, but it was really good company, and I think that they're doing excellent work, and I fully support the initiatives that they are undertaking. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please leave any comments or feedback in the chat. Thank you.
Alrighty, this is going to be an interactive panel. This is a panel for the people. Obviously, the conversation is going to start up here. Our theme today, and I think our theme every day, is solidarity and the future of this party. And I think those two are synonymous. We'll start over here with Yaneli. I'm going to pass the microphone just to have a brief round of introductions, and we'll get right to it. Starting over here with Yaneli. Yaneli, you could introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me all the way to the back. Those that are coming in, welcome, welcome. So I am very loud. I am a troublemaker, and I love it, right? My name is Yaneli Martinez. I am the community organizer here locally in Monterey County and Santa Cruz County with Safe Ag, Safe School. So we're fighting environmental racism. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Colleen Ingram, and I live in Pacific Grove. I'm involved with PG Progressives Democratic Club, Indivisible, 5051. It's all about coalitions, and I love Safe Ag, Safe School, and future leaders of a change, the future leaders of change.
Honored to be up here with you both. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Justin Loza. I am a Veteran for Peace President, Chapter 46 here in Monterey. We're an organization with a chapter in every single state and internationally, about 3,000 members or so. And we focus on resisting government policy, foreign policy interventions that don't make any sense, and ultimately ending war in this 200-year struggle. Thank you.
I had a great conversation with Colleen. I think it was like 10 p.m. last night. It was about an hour long, and we were priming ourselves, prepping ourselves for this panel. One of the important concepts, she was telling me a little bit about what she does with housing advocacy here in Monterey, which is one of the most expensive real estate markets in the state, as I'm sure many of us can relate. We were talking about how we pinpoint, how we find who we need to be in solidarity with in the context that a lot of these battles have been being fought. They're the same battles, the same lines that have been being fought for many, many generations. And we've done this before. We've had our great victories, and we've had and are dealing with our great challenges. I want to expand on that question with our panel, representative panel. How do we identify the struggles and the people that we need to be in solidarity with? No pressure.
I think it's very obvious when people are experiencing things that we're really against, especially in Palestine, and here locally we can connect it. I think it goes without saying that what they're doing to the immigrants here is an easy thing to see that we're very much against. So, and then finding the groups that would support that is unfortunately becoming easier. I think that would be my comment.
One of the ways is keeping your eye on what's happening in your communities around you. Not only what successes they have, but what pitfalls they might have, or what rights they have removed. So when one city has an issue like the renters' protections that Salinas had put together for the people, there were 4 ordinances. When the new council took those away, the people fought back. And not just the Salinas population, their surrounding community members. And the more we do that, the more we come together when we all need that help. So.
Perfectly said, Colleen. I think the biggest message, I guess, is that all of us are struggling. We live in such a crazy world right now that I wake up every morning and I'm thinking, is it real? When is it gonna be over, right? So I think we come in solidarity when we are sick and tired of the bullshit. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to cuss. But when we come together, because like we say, tu lucha es mi lucha. So your struggle is gonna be my struggle. And I think that is the biggest connection that all these different organizations have, whether you're fighting, a rent ordinance, or whether you're fighting immigration, or you're fighting environmental racism, that you have a heart and that you walk into spaces where you feel welcome and where you feel that you're gonna be uplifted. I think that's the biggest thing. We need to uplift each other now. Now is the time.
Just want to add a point. In Veterans for Peace, we take a stance that we may work with people we don't necessarily agree with all the time. And I think right now is extremely important that we suspend all of our assumptions about what anybody is for or against. And if you know we're generally headed to the right direction, then we should jump in and support in any way we can. That's our philosophy.
Thank you so much. I think in the context of what is being said, like Janelli said, the crazy world that we live in is not the world that we had 30 years ago, where you knew your neighbor, where people called each other, where people spoke to each other. This is a world where everybody is in their own little bubble, whether they're in their own little cars, listening to their particular broadcast. You have this immense polarization happening on all sides of the political spectrum, and I think that presents some new challenges in how we relate to each other. How has solidarity evolved in this new age? Where are some good shining examples in our community and how we feel for each other? I think Justin had some comments. Justin had some comments about how he relates the struggles between Palestine and ICE. In terms of, if you want to go ahead and expand and start there.
Sure. It might be a hard connection for some people to make about what's happening in Palestine and here. And it might be really easy for people to say, we have way too many of our own problems here. Let's not worry about that. But I have heard that from a lot of people. But there's a term called the imperial boomerang, where we export all the militarization and the propaganda and the tools there that's setting up infrastructure, authoritarian infrastructure. They're planning and they're perfecting it there, which we're seeing now come over the United States in a wave of fascism. So we have to not look at it as something way out there and try to really make the connection that it is the other side of the same coin. And when you view it that way, it's a lot easier to relate to people that you may not otherwise relate to on the same level.
I sort of forget what I was going to say, but along the same lines of what Justin said, is when you hear people being dehumanized, whether they're called vermin or wolves, that have to be exterminated, there are no boundaries in the lands. It's unjust. It's crimes against humanity that are coming next. So that's, I guess, where I see where we have to look at what's going on nationally and see how it's going on locally and act on it to protect our communities.
I'm gonna keep it short and simple. I think it's just providing a safe space for one another. I might not be an expert. I'm a mother of 4, so I could really definitely say that I have 4 amazing children. One of them here present, Victor, who's one of the co-founders of Future Leaders of Change. And he's always keeping me grounded. He reminds me, and if I don't get certain things, he'll remind me, why is it important for us to create certain spaces and why we as adults don't know it all. And I think that's why it's so important. I love the way that the progressive Democrats mentioned we need to involve the youth, because the youth are so smart. And honestly, if we were to allow them in spaces, they would be running a perfect world. People think they're crazy, they're on their phone, they don't know anything. But again, tying it back to, we just need to be able to provide safe spaces. There's no wrong or right. There's welcoming people into our spaces, and that we learn from each other's causes, and we become that force to uplift one another more than anything. I think that's the reality.
Thank you. That makes it so much easier for me to say yes. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. I remember seeing just a few people, we were just talking about this with the Future Leaders of Change. There were just a few when they first started. You'd see on social media posts for youth. Now there are rooms full of youth doing this. And this is also coming into using your privilege and getting in uncomfortable spaces to make that room for people.
No worries. It's okay. I use all pronouns. There's one of the things that comes to mind, or one of the things that I have seen in the world, is that there is an astonishing level of prejudgment that we have with each other because of the way that we're living, right? We automatically assume people of a certain age are going to think certain things, or people of certain religions are going to be transphobic or homophobic. I want to share very openly that when I ran for Calexico City Council, which was, is 80% Catholic, just like Greenfield, right? Hispanic, farm-working communities. And when they tell us, we can't have gay rights here, they don't know those women. And there has to be some kind of, yes, the youth are very important, but the elders in our movement also need to be heard because they know the way. We need, excuse me, what was that word?
We need intergenerational work. We need everybody.
Let me say that louder. We need intergenerational connection and continuity. We need less judgment so that we can bring people back into this space. What context have you observed in that community? What is the role of, what barriers can we break as far as assumptions that we have of certain groups that will not join, or we think will not join our movements or our party? How do we make inroads with those people that we see as further out? And how do we strengthen the ties with people that agree with us a little bit, agree with us on some things? How do we cement those coalitions? Because it seems that the other side is very good at strengthening the coalition between people who are very, very racist and people who are moderately, racist and prejudicial. They seem to be working a little bit in better synchronicity than sometimes we are, right? that is the kind of observation I kind of want to explore. And feel free to bring up another topic or just an observation that you have from your community where it's just a shining example. And also to the public, we're looking for shining examples of where solidarity exists, is identified, is strengthened, is nurtured, is carried across generations. That's the kind of inspiration I feel like we need to hear in this room.
Well, one thing comes to mind. When you say that, it was hard. I was wondering, like, what am I going to say to this right now? But one thing comes to mind is in the military, in basic training, they bring people from all over the country into these barracks to be with each other in tight quarters and to force them to have to get to know each other, where they definitely disagree on many levels. But I think what I'm trying to, like, the essence of what got us all to work together was the mission. And the focus on looking at the mission and not worrying too much about what the differences are, and that actually brought us together. So I'm just pulling that lesson into this right now.
I'm going to try to stay positive about this, but you know, I'm usually one of those fighters. I'm a stick kind of girl. Part of what I struggle with in this is the messaging. Who's got control of the messaging? Often it's the Republicans that have the control of the messaging because they have that muscle built. They've got that muscle memory, that strength. And they take that messaging, and we have, you know, I know it's an us-them kind of thing that I'm talking here, but we have the kind hearts of bridge building and caring for all that doesn't exclude. So we're vulnerable in that way. My message would be to take more control of the messaging when you're working across bridges. Don't just take messaging given to you, say from organizations that do this work, like Braver Angels. I would question the foundations of that organization, not the goal, but the foundation. So you really do have to know what's going on behind the scenes. It's not just the talk. You've got to see what's been walking.
I love that. It made me think once Raul was talking about just the dynamic behind everything, right? So for instance, I was thinking about even my time in the council. Thank God I'm out. Yes, no more wrinkles for me, and I'm loving life. But in my job as a community activist, we hear it all the time from even our own Latinos and even my own indigenous communities, like, well, you're going against big ag because then that means you don't want us to have jobs. And it's like, no, the reality is that big ag is just growing all these crops that we can't even put on the table. You, the farm workers, can't even put on the table because you can't afford it. Let's talk the reality, right? Plus, they're using pesticides that some of them were created by the Nazis, and they're not allowed in war anymore, but they're allowed in our vegetables, in the predominantly Latino indigenous communities. So when I give that harsh reality talk, they think back, oh, okay, it makes sense now, right? It makes sense that you are causing trouble. Yes, that's the thing. We need to be able to ruffle feathers in order to advance our agenda. And that's the sad reality. Breaking and dismantling what is already in place, that is the hardest job. And it takes all of us. It just can't be done overnight, but it takes a whole team, a whole village, honestly.
On that note, I've been learning a lot lately. That's my perspective too, sorry. That's my perspective as well, or was my perspective. I think it might be changing though, because I think being outspoken is really good on really important topics, but I've noticed that it does sometimes shut people from listening to what you're saying completely, and from being open to hearing what you have to say. I will be straight up. I've spoken to our congressman in a very outspoken way, and I don't get invited back to talk. And I really want to talk to him, and I think through him is the only way we actually can make change. So we got to find a balance, of being very outspoken on the really important topics, but then doing it in a way that doesn't people turn on or have people turn on like a wall.
I think being able to listen as well as speak up. I want to take this time, since we're wrapping up this panel in a good 10-15 minutes. I want to hear from the people, because I know we have some opinions, definitely on intergenerational solidarity. We have different members of the community. If we could make a small line, or if you can raise your hand to participate. Neil will run the mic, and we'll be happy to engage everybody in conversation, please. We have a voice over here.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, this is Dina Saba. I think one of the challenges that I am seeing is that a lot of especially the older generation, they don't want to vote. They're just fed up, and they don't want to vote. And how do we affect change, and how do we convince them that the reason why we're in the mess that we're in is because people are not voting, or not enough of us who are progressive, who believe in human rights for everyone, we're not voting, and we're not influential enough. I know you're probably talking about Congressman Panetta that refuses to meet with people if they're. But how do we get our elder generation to actually continue to be engaged and vote?
Do you want to answer?
I have an answer.
There we go. I love that.
The California Alliance for Retired Americans. They are super active, and you've got a couple of people who have been active on their board. We're throughout the nation. We're in most states, but we're strong in California. We have over 1 million members. So you can encourage people, or you can actually go on site, you can learn about us, and you can support us.
What is it again?
California Alliance for Retired Americans, CARA.
But if you go to californiaalliance.org, that's the website.
Just very briefly, I know Yaneli is going to probably want to say something about this too, but I think, Miss, what was your name?
Nadine.
Oh, me? I'm Nadine.
Nadine and? Dina? I think a lot of it has to do with inspiration. Like, if we do not have someone who has an inspirational message, or the person that wants to run is too afraid to run because their community is not behind them, because they do not feel safe, because they do not have housing, because they do not have a job, but they have the vision, and that vision is suppressed, I think the problem is right there. We're not excited about all choices, right? And not everybody has the equal opportunity to run. And if we don't have exciting candidates, we're not going to have excited voters.
Yeah, and sorry, this is gonna sound very radical, and maybe you guys will not invite me back. You'll be like, she's gonna go out with the socialists. But the reality of thing is, and I'm talking as a politician, ex-politician, right? Is that we have to break these barriers of like, whoa, like for instance, Congressman Panetta. Yeah, I get it. We need to meet with them. But regardless, if I talk nice to him or not, that's not gonna stop me. He works for me and all of us here, right? So we need to stop saying that these politicians, we're the problem why they remain in office. And so we're the problem too when people feel discouraged for voting for the proper candidates, because why? We're not out there. And so my advice to everyone is, when you hear people that are feeling like, I give up. I hear it all the time from the youth themselves as well. Why should I even vote? Why? Because that's how we make a difference. And in order to make change, it starts with you, because then if you want to see a politician that's going to be there for the people, fighting for justice when it comes to rent, environment, immigration, you name it, you need to learn that you're going to be the next leader in that table, right? Regardless of your background. But we need to break the barrier, and I've learned it from my son, and I wish he would say something because he's very radical, is that we need to, we need to break these cycles of, well, that's the only politician we have. No, there's so many more, and let's uplift them, and let's create this unity where we make change.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Would you like to take this one first?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, that you could sort of flip that question around too. Is it why aren't they voting? Because the lesser of the two evils has become a hard stop for some people now. They're just tired of it.
We had some.
Hello, fellow Progressive Caucus folks and other folks. I'm happy to be here. My name is Bonnie Hamilton. I do disagree. Most of the people I work with are of my generation, the boomers. My daughter is a Zoomer, Gen Z. And she is really overwhelmed with all this SHIT that's going on. And it is really, really hard for her. She's very triggered. She has to live in this world a lot longer than I do, and it's really, really hard. So I have a lot of compassion for younger folks who are having trouble with it. She votes, but she can't really take it on. I do want to give you a shout out for talking about ruffling feathers. We have to be trailblazers, and we have to plant seeds. And those seeds may not grow overnight, but they do, and we have to cultivate and continue. But anyway, all hands on deck. That's all I have to say.
Can I say too, planting those seeds, when you're not happy with a candidate or an elected, somebody that's in office, a lot of times people just go with the flow. If they know that you aren't happy with it too, and you have those conversations, what would make this better, then you get better representation, having those conversations.
I'm sorry, we've had a person. Yes?
And sorry, my name is Marisol Rubio, and yes, speaking as an elected official from the city of San Ramon.
Yes.
And I have to say, what I feel has happened is there's been too many broken promises. We have promised, we have received the message over and over, we're gonna get health care for everyone, we're gonna get X, Y, and Z, and we haven't received that. We haven't even really made much of a stride in some areas. And so with that came a loss of trust. And so when, as was spoken about inspiration, it takes more than just inspiration. We need leaders who show integrity and who yes, will occasionally ruffle feathers because you have to. But that doesn't mean being disrespectful. It means being honest about what's happening. And something I've spoken about as a woman of color in this party with intersectional background is we have to work better to give visibility to those people who are fighting to be seen, who are fighting for, I have a daughter with lifelong disabilities who's a brain cancer survivor. And I can't tell you how much pushback I still get from, occasionally from, not many, but few who are enough to make life very painful for women of color with intersectional backgrounds. And we have got to do a much better job of creating safe spaces for them. Otherwise, we're gonna continue to see an exit from the party. Right now, as it stands, NPP is the largest voting sector. And as was mentioned, 34% didn't vote. That's how we ended up with the orange person at the top. So.
Thank you.
Do we want to go to Zoom and then back?
Let's do Michelle first, and then we'll do this one.
Thanks. I just wanted to say that I think all of it is necessary. You can't just do one way. So the young man that's wanting to be able to speak to your congressperson, I applaud you for trying to figure out the way that's going to allow you to continue to do that. And we need people out on the rallies. We need people advocating inside. We need, people speaking at council meetings and speaking firmly, not disrespectfully. I do believe strongly in that, but firmly. And we need other people that are, doing the data. Like, all of it is necessary. Because you never know, I always say if you throw a pebble into a stream, you never know where those ripples are going.
All right, family. So there's a couple of comments on Zoom. One I wanted to share. This is a great idea. Judy Rice recommended that various caucuses hold joint meetings on various themes. So each caucus can inform each other on a particular theme, for example, immigration. So we wanted to uplift that idea. That's something that we can work on as a caucus. Again, on the theme of solidarity and bringing all the caucuses together because all of our struggles are interrelated. We're gonna take 3 questions from Zoom. I'm gonna ask folks to keep their question to a question because after this little section, we can let our panelists rest and then there is going to be time for announcements. So let's try to keep these questions for the caucus members. So I'm gonna mute folks on Zoom and I might have to repeat their question to you all because otherwise you might not hear it. Okay, so we're gonna start with David first. David Abbasi.
Hello folks. Actually, I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to speak about how we can get young people, engage young people to vote for progressive causes. Briefly speak on that. How?
David, do you mind keeping that for the announcement section? I'll call on you in like 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Gabrielle is next.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We'll repeat your question, so I'll repeat it out with the mic.
Okay, thank you. This is more of a comment than a question, so hopefully there's a way to it. I know that this specifically cannot be addressed at the state level, it's more federal, but I really do agree with the sentiment of the comment from, Jesus right here, from Lisa Tyree, hopefully I'm saying that right, where we need to increase the progressive taxation we have, in this country, or specifically in the state, and actually make the billionaires that are benefiting from the current system pay their fair share, because there is so much wealth that is being stored away, being hoarded away, and meanwhile, the average American is suffering. We're not asking for all their wealth. All we're asking is for them to pay their fair share, to fund the schools, the fire departments, the universities.
Do we agree with progressive taxation to fund schools?
Yes.
Do we agree with progressive taxation to fund healthcare?
Yes.
Really, or just a little bit? Yes. I think this caucus agrees with you, Gabriel.
But fair taxation.
But fair taxation, very important.
It's hard for low income, it's hard for families right now to be able to, I have an issue right now in my community where we're trying to decide, should we pay more for our firefighters? And as far as we're yes, but $700, that's a lot.
Progressive.
Yes. When they say progressive, they mean most of the burden will shift to the people with higher means, specifically.
With high amounts of money are not.
Yes, I understand.
And a wealth tax.
Is there another?
Yeah,
person?
one more question on Zoom, and again, I want to be fair with my comments to keep comments for later. So Joe, do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, my question is in regards to building power in the labor movement.
Building power in the labor movement. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is recently SEIU UHW announced the new ballot proposition, the billionaire tax, and this tax is to basically it's a 5% one-time tax to fund the gaps left by the big beautiful bill. And my question is basically, what do we think about building power in the labor movement in regards to progressive causes, and how can we be better or do better outreach to labor unions and our fellow brothers, sisters, and other people to build power in those areas, in those spaces?
We'll pick this up as a question and a topic, which I'm sure is central and important. The question is, how do we intersect with the labor movement a little bit more closely? How do we identify ourselves as workers in the context of the progressive policy agenda that we have?
Well, in Monterey County, I think we're pretty good with working with the labor unions. In the rallies, labor unions have been leaders in getting people out there and ignited. And it's also shown exactly what what you get when you sign up for a labor union. You get representation. You get people working on legislation for you. They're talking to your representatives. They're going to your state capital. So that's really important. It really stoked me to further investigate labor unions that are involved where I work. So, yeah, that's what you said.
We have a couple more minutes to wrap, or just to wrap up? Yes. We're gonna wrap up as the cliche with any panel. I wish we had more time to discuss all of these things, but I do want to open up just 2 minutes based on a couple of things that were said. There's a lot of inspirational things that, or inspirational propositions. The proposition that integrity is what is going to drive this party, that that integrity from our public officials delivering the results is what is truly going to make people feel as if they are a part of this party. I just want to end with some inspiration from our panel members and just kind of synthesize our feelings on how we feel, and I'll say something later.
I think telling the truth is really hard, but it's invigorating and it gets people engaged. If we hear politicians tell the truth, I've seen some, it actually pulls you in, even if you don't exactly agree with it. So no more being indirect about, Gaza and disarming Hamas. They have to protect themselves. It's not anti-Israel, all right, to support them. I think that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Working together, collective care builds collective power. When we find things to work on to fill those gaps in equity, mutual aid, things that we're really going to need to step up for our communities as this big, beautiful bill and everything with the government shutdown is going on. That's going to help us, and it's going to continue to help us. So when we help others, we help everyone.
And I'm going to give up my time really quick. So, Victor, future mayor, órale, a trabajar. We want to hear from you. Final comments and remarks. Let's put them to work. You take my final comments.
Final comments? Well, I think the panel has made some really interesting points, as well as audience members, but more than anything, I could stand here for hours going on about how I feel about systemically everything to do with it. It's a crazy time. It's a crazy time, and especially as a young person who's going to school full-time, working part-time as well. It's a lot to handle, but if I could just put in my 2 cents is that, first of all, free Palestine, and armed resistance is not violence. And more than anything, it's amazing to be in this room with so many people who I can definitely say I see eye to eye with so many issues in regards to not only intergenerational movements and how it plays a key role in activism, but also grassroots movements as we're seeing right here, right now, but also in regards to integrity and honesty from people who we are putting in positions of power. I personally, just to give my 2 cents on this, it is a systemic issue and nothing will be changed until we get rid of the political duopoly in this country. But at this moment in time, we have to do our due diligence, as was mentioned up here, as voters, as people from different sects of life, to educate ourselves and educate others, friends, family, and other loved ones as to what we can do, and to also hold these leaders accountable and people who want to run for these positions accountable. Make sure that we do see eye to eye with them and that they're willing to sit at the table with us regarding any issue that we have, because we see a lot of that from many politicians, that as soon as they get to that area, as soon as they get to their seat, they forget about who got them there. They forget about the people and the movements that have suffered to get them there. So more than anything, hold leaders accountable, and let's make sure that we are all doing our due diligence to stay educated and make this country a lot better than what it is currently, because as a member of Gen Z, it's quite a mess, but it's still a lot of work left to do. And more than anything, power to the people.
Closing off this panel, I just want to say I want to stand with Victor, and I took the words right out of my mouth. Don't you forget that the agenda is with the people. The agenda is with the people that stand up. The agenda is with the people that make their voice heard no matter who is in power. And we pray that we can support leaders like Victor, and this is the kind of integrity that's going to get our party across the finish line. This is what is going to unite us. Thank you, Yaneli. Thank you, Colleen, Justin, audience, and we'll pass on the microphone. Big round of applause.
I was back.